Ready for the most eye-opening list? Get ready to be immersed in the conservative golden age of Hollywood, a time when stars were forced to live closeted lives. Here are 10 lesbian closet cases of old Hollywood.
Oh, you're a friend of Milani's. He sent you? Sit down. Don't you feel well?
Number 10. Agnes Moorehead. Might not be a name you hear every day, but it goes without saying that Agnes Moorehead was one of the greats. Celebrated for her versatile roles in radio, film, and television, Moorehead was the recipient of 2 Golden Globe Awards and a Primetime Emmy Award. In a career that spanned 5 decades, Moorehead stole the hearts of audiences, particularly through her iconic portrayal of Endora on Bewitched. Now, Moorehead was often speculated to have been a closeted lesbian. While she never openly discussed her sexuality, rumors about her romantic interest in women circulated both during her life and after her passing. Because Moorehead was a complex figure in Hollywood, understanding her life as a closeted lesbian requires looking at her career, her public image, and of course, the pressures of living truly in her time. Moorehead was a prolific actress who transitioned from radio to film and television with exceptional skill. Her talent was undeniable, and her character choices tended toward eccentric, bold women who were often at odds with mainstream femininity. Her role as Endora, the flamboyant, otherworldly character who challenged the norms of 1960s sitcom mothers, became her signature. Now, if there was one good thing to come from this typecasting, it is the fact that it helped her mask herself. This public persona as an independent, outspoken woman allowed her to sidestep typical questions about marriage and family that were often posed to women in Hollywood. But of course, it really wasn't enough. In time, her lack of conventional marital commitments led to speculation. Many industry insiders and fans alike began to suspect that Moorehead might be hiding aspects of her personal life. So it was only a matter of time before the rumors about her sexuality began to roll in. Moorehead's close relationship with women and the absence of any lasting public relationships with men fueled further speculation. While she was married twice, briefly to John Griffith Lee and later to actor Robert Gist, both marriages ended in divorce. Her private life remained just that, extremely private. In that era, public figures went to great lengths to avoid scandal, and Moorehead was no exception. Reports suggest that she may have had romantic relationships with women, but these were concealed due to the strict moral climate of Hollywood at that time. If the rumors are to be believed, then Moorehead never entered in such a high-profile arrangement by the studio to conceal her sexuality. Instead, she maintained her single status for most of her life. She also mastered the art of deflecting questions about her private affairs. The strict moral codes, often enforced by powerful studios, demanded that actors and actresses adhere to traditional heterosexual ideals. For Moorehead, this likely meant a lifetime of compartmentalizing her public and private selves. The lavender closet of Hollywood left many stars isolated and lonely, unable to share their true selves with the world. Aside from ruining her career, Moorehead had other reasons to keep her lifestyle a secret. For one, she was a devout Christian, and this aspect of her identity deeply influenced her life. Her faith, combined with societal pressures, may have been a significant reason why she chose not to openly express any non-heteronormative inclinations. She was intensely private, conservative in her values, and known for her disciplined lifestyle. Religious beliefs and societal expectations around morality were often in conflict with the realities of LGBTQ+ life at the time. If Moorehead was indeed attracted to women, she would have faced an inner struggle reconciling her faith with her sexuality. Despite never openly addressing her sexuality, Moorehead has become an emblematic figure for LGBTQ+ history enthusiasts exploring the hidden lives of old Hollywood stars. Her story reflects the difficulties faced by LGBTQ+ individuals in a time when being out was nearly impossible without risking one's career and social standing. Moorehead's dedication to privacy meant that she shielded herself from the kind of scrutiny that could have threatened her position in Hollywood, but it also likely meant sacrificing a part of her identity.
Oh, it's all right. I don't mind being called names or pushed around or even kicked in the shin. But now I have a lad and my last pair of nylons.
Yes, you are.
Number 9. Marlene Dietrich. Marlene Dietrich was an iconic German-American actress and singer renowned for her sultry voice, glamorous screen presence, and boundary-pushing style. Born Marie Magdalene Dietrich in Berlin, Germany, she gained international fame in the late 1920s and 1930s and became one of the most enduring icons of Hollywood's golden age. Her iconic career began with a breakthrough role in a 1930 film titled The Blue Angel. It was a German film directed by Josef von Sternberg. In it, she played the seductive cabaret singer Lola Lola. Her performance captivated audiences and led to a Hollywood contract with Paramount Pictures. From this point, the roles kept pouring in. That same year, she starred in the film Morocco. Her role attracted her first Academy Award nomination. Shanghai Express, Destry Rides Again, and Witness for the Prosecution are a few roles that showcased her awesome range as an actress. In addition to her film career, Dietrich was known for her distinct androgynous style. She famously wore men's clothing, both on and off screen, challenging gender norms of the time and becoming a style icon. Her allure and persona transcended gender boundaries, making her a symbol of sexual fluidity and modern sophistication. During World War II, Dietrich became an outspoken opponent of Nazi Germany. Despite offers from the Nazi regime to return to Germany as a star, she chose to become an American citizen and performed extensively for Allied troops. This earned her the Medal of Freedom for her contributions to the war effort. In her later years, Dietrich focused more on her singing career, performing around the world in cabaret shows that were hugely successful. She became known for her deep voice and famous renditions of songs like Lily Marlene and Where Have All the Flowers Gone? Like the other names on this list, Dietrich was often rumored to be gay or bisexual. To begin with, Dietrich was known for her androgynous style, frequently wearing men's clothing both on and off screen. Even in the art-focused Weimar culture of the early 20th century Germany, Dietrich dared to live boldly and without restraint. She frequently wore pants and tuxedos on screen at a time when it was considered unconventional. This forever altered women's perspectives on pants. Perhaps this is a reason many begin to speculate about her sexual orientation. Her roles in films like Morocco, where she dressed in a tuxedo and kissed a woman, further fueled speculation on her sexuality. So how did she keep her bisexuality under wraps? You see, back then there was this pretty neat concept known as the lavender closet. Many LGBTQ+ figures in Hollywood during Dietrich's time lived in what was referred to as the lavender closet. This simply meant their sexuality was an open secret in certain circles, but not discussed openly in the media. This was especially true for stars with high public visibility. So while rumors circulated about Dietrich's sexuality, Hollywood's PR machinery and the gossip columns of the time largely avoided direct discussions about her orientation. Dietrich carefully cultivated her image as a glamorous, enigmatic star, so while she had relationships with women, such as French writer Mercedes d'Acosta and actress Claudette Colbert, these relationships were kept discreet. Her relationships with men, including her marriages and affairs, were more publicly known. Despite her rebellious and boundary-pushing persona, she was careful not to confirm or deny rumors about her relationships. It was only in later years, through biographies and personal accounts from her close friends, that her bisexuality became more widely acknowledged. Even though people within her social circles may have known about her relationships with women, the general public was either unaware or chose to focus on her on-screen persona and heterosexual relationships.
Hello? Yeah, it's me. Oh, hello, Al. Yeah, I'll meet you. Where? 110th Street? Oh, no, further down. Not you, you mug. No, I didn't...
Number 8. Patsy Kelly. Patsy Kelly was known for her vivacious personality and witty performances in 1930s comedies. Sadly, she lived a double life. On the one hand, it was publicly flamboyant and bold, while also being privately marked by the struggles of being a closeted lesbian in old Hollywood. Patsy Kelly's career began in vaudeville, where her comedic timing and unfiltered humor made her a natural performer. She transitioned to Hollywood in the early 1930s as a wisecracking sidekick in comedy shorts, particularly alongside actress Thelma Todd. Her unapologetically brash style made her stand out, but she was often typecast as the funny, down-to-earth friend rather than a leading lady. In an industry focused on glamour and beauty, her tomboyish and outspoken persona set her apart from most of her contemporaries. While Kelly's personal life was kept private in Hollywood, rumors still circulated about her relationships with women. While homosexuality was common within Hollywood's closed circles, LGBTQ+ actors and actresses were forced to hide their sexuality publicly, to avoid scandal and career damage. So like many others before her, Kelly operated within the lavender closet. This elaborate structure helped keep same-sex relationships under wraps and away from speculation. Although she had relationships with women, she lived in a time when discussing such matters publicly was impossible. Hollywood's moral codes were particularly restrictive, making it challenging for stars like Kelly to be open about their sexuality without facing significant backlash. As such, she relied on humor and her brash personality as shields, allowing her to keep her personal life as private as possible while embracing a bold, unconventional public image. By the late 1930s, Kelly's career had declined. Typecasting, her rebellious nature, and her lack of traditional glamour made it difficult for her to find steady work. Unfortunately, she also struggled with alcoholism, which exacerbated her reputation as difficult to work with. Her battles with alcohol may have stemmed in part from the pressure of concealing her identity in an unaccepting society. After a period of relative obscurity, Kelly eventually returned to the public eye with character roles on television and stage. By doing so, she gained new fans in the 1960s and 70s. Patsy Kelly's attitude toward her sexuality evolved later in life. By the 1960s and 70s, social attitudes were gradually shifting, and Kelly began to refer to herself as Dyke openly. In doing so, she became one of the few old Hollywood stars to publicly embrace her lesbian identity despite the stigma that still lingered. Her openness was groundbreaking for someone of her generation and allowed her to reclaim control over her narrative. Her coming out was remarkable given the era she grew up in, and she faced her later years with a candidness that was rare among her peers. Today, she is remembered as an important figure who, in her own humorous, brazen way, pushed back against the constraints of her time.
You have a busy day.
Morning, Ebba. What are you doing up so early?
I couldn't sleep.
That means you're either happy or unhappy. Which is it?
Number 7. Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo's career spanned the silent film era and the advent of talkies. In that time, she became known for her beauty, talent, and commanding screen presence. Her roles often involved complex, independent women, which mirrored her off-screen persona. But despite being one of Hollywood's most enigmatic and iconic figures, Greta Garbo has long been the subject of speculation regarding her sexuality. Garbo was famously private, and her recurring phrase, "I want to be alone," added to the reputation for being reclusive. This mystique might have fueled public fascination, but it eventually led to speculation about her personal life. Garbo was rumored to have had relationships with several women, including actresses and other prominent figures. Among those frequently mentioned are renowned writer and socialite Mercedes DaCosta and actress Louise Brooks. Letters between Garbo and DaCosta surfaced after Garbo's death, and these letters reportedly pointed towards a deep, intimate relationship. Considering DaCosta was openly lesbian, their correspondence indicates a close bond that many would interpret as romantic. Greta Garbo eventually retired from acting and public life entirely by the time she turned 35. Garbo never married and never had any children. This was probably not due to a lack of suitors, because at least two men, Swedish publisher Lars Saxon and American silent film star John Gilbert, are said to have proposed to Garbo at different points. Rumors speak of a letter written on MGM notepaper and addressed to Lars Saxon. At some point, the letter was obtained by the Postal Museum, and Garbo reportedly wrote, "I will probably remain a bachelor all my life. Wife is such an ugly word." So at the end of the day, Garbo was a bisexual who was widely known in the Hollywood community. But that was as much as her personal preferences went. To the public, nothing was ever confirmed, and the rumors were nothing more than hearsay. On Garbo's part, rather than lie to the press, she chose to remain silent about her personal life. Whatever truths came out after she passed could not be controlled.
Dexter, would you mind doing something for me?
Anything, what?
Get the heck out of here.
Oh, my dear.
Number 6. Katharine Hepburn. Katharine Hepburn, one of the most iconic actresses in Hollywood history, led a fiercely independent life that continues to intrigue fans and biographers alike. Known for her unconventional style, groundbreaking roles, and bold personality, Hepburn challenged the era's gender norms and pushed the boundaries of what it meant to be a woman in Hollywood. But while she publicly maintained relationships with men, there has long been speculation that Hepburn may have lived as a closeted lesbian or bisexual. You see, Hepburn's career was groundbreaking in many ways. She took on roles that highlighted strong, intelligent women and often portrayed characters who were independent and unconventional, much like herself. Her style, favoring trousers over dresses and embracing a tomboyish aesthetic, was considered revolutionary and even scandalous in the 1930s and 40s. Somehow, this nonconformist image gave her a degree of protection. It allowed her to avoid questions about marriage and children that female stars were typically expected to answer. Her public persona helped as well. She was often described as aloof, elusive, and one to guard her private life intensely. This helped cultivate an aura of mystery around her, allowing her to live without being defined by traditional Hollywood expectations. Many of her fans believed her to be a symbol of self-determination and resilience, though few had insight into her personal life. But there were some aspects of her private life that the public was privy to. For one, Hepburn had high-profile relationships with men, including an intense 26-year companionship with Spencer Tracy. However, she was notoriously private about her emotional life, and some believe her relationship with Tracy may have been more of a deep friendship and partnership than a romantic or sexual relationship. She often spoke of their bond fondly and cared for him until his death, but there is debate over whether this relationship was romantic in the traditional sense. Similarly, Hepburn also had deep friendships with women, most notably with socialite Laura Harding. Hepburn and Harding lived together for periods of time, and their relationship has led some to speculate that Hepburn may have been romantically involved with her or other women. Hepburn's friendships with women were intense, intimate, and lifelong. This fact has given credence to the rumors about Hepburn's sexuality that have persisted for decades. Author Scotty Bowers, who worked in Hollywood as a confidant to many stars, claimed in his memoir that Hepburn had a series of relationships with women and that he helped arrange meetings for her with her female partners. While these claims remain unverified, they have fueled speculation about her private life and suggest that she may have experienced same-sex attraction. For Hepburn, who valued her privacy above all, it would have been challenging to explore her sexuality open even with close friends and colleagues. If she were indeed attracted to women, she likely would have concealed it to avoid jeopardizing her career or facing the stigma that LGBTQ+ individuals endured at that time. Being openly lesbian or bisexual was out of the question for a star of her stature, especially as she grew into a symbol of strength and self-reliance for many fans. Her carefully cultivated image would have been difficult to maintain had she been open about a non-heterosexual orientation. Hepburn's choices, both in her career and personal life, allowed her to live on her own terms, from avoiding marriage, children, and the conventional lifestyle that many expected of her. She truly lived on her own terms. Number 5. Marilyn Monroe. There is no denying that Marilyn Monroe is one of the most iconic figures in Hollywood history. She remains one of the most enduring figures in Hollywood history for several reasons, many of which go beyond her physical beauty and charisma. For one, she had a unique screen presence. Monroe had an undeniable on-screen charisma and charm that set her apart from other actresses. Her combination of vulnerability, playfulness, and sensuality made her captivating to watch. In time, she became the quintessential 1950s bombshell. She represented a new kind of sensuality that was more open, yet still playful. From her platinum blonde hair, iconic red lips, and curvaceous figure, she cultivated a very glamorous persona. While it may have positioned her to be typecast in roles that played up her looks, Monroe went out of her way to add depth and complexity to the dumb blonde archetype. Though Monroe was often cast in light comedic roles, she was deeply intelligent and ambitious. Behind the scenes, she worked hard to challenge the limited opportunities available to her. Monroe formed her own production company, Marilyn Monroe Productions, in 1955 to gain more creative control over her career. This was a bold and rare move for a woman in Hollywood at the time, but it signaled her desire to be taken seriously as an actress. And Monroe had a lasting cultural impact. She challenged societal norms about female sexuality and, in doing so, helped open up discussions about women's roles both on and off the screen. Even decades after her death, her unapologetic embrace of her sexuality is still celebrated as groundbreaking for the conservative climate of the 1950s. That said, she stands out not just as an actress, but as a quintessential sex symbol for heterosexual men everywhere. So would you believe that she was ever the subject of numerous rumors and speculations about her sexual orientation? Where would these rumors even come from? Marilyn Monroe had very close relationships with women. But in a twist, some biographers and historians have interpreted these to be potentially romantic or sexual. Her relationship with actresses like Joan Crawford and Barbara Stanwyck, Marlene Dietrich, and Elizabeth Taylor have all been scrutinized for signs of intimacy beyond friendship. Various contemporaries and people close to Monroe have also suggested that she had sexual encounters with women. Take her second husband, Joe DiMaggio, who alleged that she had a special relationship with women like her acting coach, Natasha Lytess. Numerous unverified anecdotes circulate about Monroe's sexual encounters with women. These stories are often based on secondhand accounts or gossip that have made it difficult to separate fact from fiction. But then Monroe was also known to have made ambiguous statements about her sexuality. Though she never explicitly identified as bisexual or gay, in some interviews she hinted at a fluid approach to relationships. Monroe had relationships with several men, including high-profile marriages to baseball player Joe DiMaggio and playwright Arthur Miller, as well as well-known affairs with public figures like President John F. Kennedy. These are the relationships the public were aware of. There is one piece of evidence to support Monroe's lesbian encounters with several of these women, particularly Joan Crawford. Toward the end of her life, when Monroe was seeing psychiatrist Dr. Ralph Greenson, she revealed in recorded sessions that she had a sexual encounter with Crawford. In the recording, Monroe allegedly stated that Crawford had a gigantic orgasm during their time together. In fact, Crawford reportedly grew spiteful when Monroe turned down the offer of a second meeting. So even in the absence of definitive public confirmation from Monroe herself, much of the persisting speculation is based on anecdotes, personal accounts, and biographies written after her death. Monroe's makeup artist Alan Whitey Snyder is one of the sources who hinted at her relationship with women. While these claims remain part of Monroe's larger-than-life mythology, she never publicly identified as bisexual. Much of the discussion about her sexuality has emerged posthumously, contributing to the ongoing fascination with her personal life and legacy as a cultural icon.
There is a voice in our souls which tells us what to do, and we obey. I have no...
Number 4. Mercedes D'Acosta. Poet, playwright, and screenwriter Mercedes D'Acosta was an influential figure at the peak of her career. In fact, she is still referenced today for her romantic relationships with prominent Hollywood actresses as part of her creative work. Unlike most names on this list, Mercedes D'Acosta was relatively open about her sexuality. As you are about to see, she faced significant social and professional consequences for doing so. Born to a wealthy Spanish-Cuban family in New York, D'Acosta had an affluent upbringing that afforded her access to the literary and artistic circles of the early 20th century. Her bold personality and interest in the arts led her to develop her own voice as a writer, and she eventually pursued a career as a playwright and a screenwriter. Ever heard of the sewing circle? It was a covert term used in Hollywood's golden age to refer to a group of lesbian and bisexual actresses, writers, and others in the industry who often had to keep their relationships and identities hidden. Be it the societal norms or industry pressures, this group of women held it down for each other. If the rumors are true, then members of the sewing circle included high-profile actresses like Greta Garbo, Marlene Dietrich, and Tallulah Bankhead. These women navigated their personal lives discreetly and were able to form close networks and friendships. They found ways to support each other while dealing with the pressures of the era's morality clauses and public image constraints. To date, the Sewing Circle remains a fascinating aspect of Hollywood history, illustrating how these women subverted norms to create community and find personal freedom. Now, DaCosta was a key figure within the Sewing Circle of Hollywood's LGBTQ+ community, so she must have maintained close relationships with some of the era's most iconic women. However, DaCosta was often overshadowed by her relationships with famous women rather than her professional achievements. Even worse, her personal life became central to her public identity. Her androgynous style, often wearing tailored suits and hats, made her a striking figure who defied traditional gender norms. DaCosta's style was unconventional, even in avant-garde circles, and her open expression of her sexuality was bold in a society that was largely intolerant of LGBTQ+ individuals. Interestingly, DaCosta's romantic life was as dramatic as any Hollywood film. She was linked to some of the most famous actresses of her time, including Greta Garbo, Marlene Dietrich, Alla Natsumova, and Isadora Duncan. Her relationship with Garbo was particularly intense, though the exact nature of the relationship remains a subject of speculation. Garbo was intensely private, and while DaCosta expressed her love openly through letters and poetry, Garbo remained silent, likely out of fear of scandal. Her relationship with actress Alla Natsumova, who coined the term Sewing Circle, opened her up to many women within the circle. DaCosta's openness was rare for the time, and she was one of the few figures who did not attempt to hide her same-sex relationships. It set her apart as a bold, almost defiant figure. Though she lived openly, she was still constrained by society to an extent. At the end of the day, her openness about her relationships limited her career, particularly in Hollywood. As a result, she struggled to achieve lasting success in Hollywood, with her unconventional life often overshadowing her work. She faced financial hardship later in life, as her willingness to live authentically came at the cost of professional stability. In 1960, DaCosta published her memoir, Here Lies the Heart. This memoir stirred quite a controversy because it detailed her friendships and relationships with Hollywood's elite. This included intimate insights into her connections with stars like Garbo and Dietrich. The memoir caused an uproar, as DaCosta hinted at the closeted lives of some of the era's most beloved actresses. Garbo, in particular, was furious and reportedly never forgave her for the revelations in the memoir. The book effectively closed doors for DaCosta in Hollywood and alienated her from several former friends. Safe to say that Mercedes DaCosta's legacy is one of courage, romance, and resilience. She dared to be herself in a world that demanded conformity. If you've made it this far, do hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any updates from us.
Every Jane in the room is giving him the thermometer, and he feels they're just a waste of time. He's returning to his book. He's deeply immersed in it. He sees no one except...
Number 3. Barbara Stanwyck. Cementing her place as one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, Barbara Stanwyck captivated audiences with her raw talent, intelligence, and emotional depth. Known for iconic roles in Double Indemnity, Stella Dallas, and The Lady Eve, Stanwyck was a complex figure who embraced her independence and exuded a toughness rarely seen in female stars of her time. Yet behind her powerful image, she led a deeply private life, a life that has led many to ponder on her sexuality. Stanwyck's career began in the late 1920s on Broadway before she transitioned to Hollywood. After making this transition, she quickly became one of the highest-paid women in the industry. She had a strong screen presence, a no-nonsense demeanor, and an ability to portray intelligent, self-reliant women. These were things that distinguished her from many of her peers. She frequently played roles that broke from traditional femininity and embraced characters who were bold, witty, and unapologetically tough. This choice of roles helped her establish a public persona as a fiercely independent woman. Stanwyck made sure to maintain this reputation off-screen as well. She also maintained a certain distance from the press and public. She rarely engaged in the Hollywood social scene, which further added to her enigmatic image. This made it easier for her to keep her personal life private. So where did the speculation come from? Well, let's begin with her relationships. Stanwyck was married twice. First to actor Frank Fay and later to Robert Taylor. Her marriage to Fay was tumultuous and allegedly abusive, and it ended in divorce in 1935. It was her second marriage to Taylor, which was often viewed as a Hollywood arrangement. By arrangement, yes, we mean a lavender marriage. This marriage was reportedly set up by the studios to help Taylor's career and to quell rumors about both stars' sexual orientations. Despite their marriage, Stanwyck and Taylor lived largely separate lives, and their marriage ended in 1951. After this, she remained single for the rest of her life. Stanwyck's relationships with men were often described as distant and pragmatic, leading some biographers and historians to speculate that her attraction may have primarily been toward women. However, Stanwyck guarded her personal life so closely that she left few clues as to the nature of her relationships. With some effort, she maintained her public image as an independent woman uninterested in conventional romance. There were rumors throughout her life that Stanwyck was romantically involved with several women in Hollywood, though these relationships were never publicly confirmed. One notable instance was the close friendship with actress Joan Crawford. The depth and closeness of this friendship added to the perception that Stanwyck may have lived as a closeted lesbian or bisexual. For someone like Stanwyck, being openly lesbian or bisexual would have meant risking her career and facing potential ostracization from both Hollywood and mainstream society. Female stars were especially vulnerable to scrutiny and were often compelled to maintain a heterosexual image. This is why arranged dates, publicized romances, or even marriages were used as a means to avoid scandal. By keeping her personal life private, Stanwyck could sidestep many of the questions about her relationships and avoid potential career damage. While this choice allowed her to maintain control over her life, it also likely came at the cost of genuine self-expression. Isn't it sad, though? Living as a closeted lesbian in such a conservative time would have required constant vigilance to separate her public image from her private reality. Number 2. Alla Nazimova. Russian-born actress, filmmaker, and screenwriter, Alla Nazimova was one of old Hollywood's most innovative and influential figures. As a closeted lesbian during a time of rigid social expectations, she managed to achieve a successful career in both silent films and stage. Born in 1879 in the Russian Empire, which is now Ukraine, Nazimova trained in Moscow's theater circles before immigrating to the US in 1905. Her early work not only showcased her powerful acting and emotional depth, it also helped her make a name for herself on Broadway. By the time she made it to Hollywood, she was one of the highest paid and most respected actresses of the silent film era. She was known for her expressive, bold performances and her avant-garde approach to film. Some of her most famous films include Camille in 1921 and Salome in 1923. Despite her success, her unique vision and experimental style faced resistance. Her choices in production and artistic direction were considered too unconventional and often dismissed as eccentric. Nazimova was a known member of the Sewing Circle, the term for a network of lesbian and bisexual actresses in Hollywood. In fact, history has it that she coined the covert term. She owned a mansion on Sunset Boulevard, later called the Garden of Allah. There she hosted gatherings for free-spirited artists, writers, and performers. This property became a legendary hub for Hollywood's bohemian and LGBTQ+ subculture. Still, she had to keep her orientation a secret to maintain her career. Publicly, she was briefly married to actor Charles Bryant. This marriage was later revealed to be for appearances only. From actress Eva Le Gallienne to writer Mercedes de Acosta, Nazimova was rumored to be romantically involved with influential women of her time. Nazimova's life as a closeted lesbian presented profound challenges. The intense scrutiny and conservatism of the industry required her to carefully balance her public and private identities. As studio pressures mounted and the transition to sound films created new challenges, her career began to decline. Eventually, she retreated from Hollywood, working in smaller roles until her death in 1945.
Why didn't you call me? You might have, you know. Philadelphia isn't the end of the world.
I didn't want to.
Number 1. Joan Crawford. It goes without saying that Joan Crawford led a complex life marked by ambition, charisma, and a fierce drive for success. While known for her dramatic roles and personal reinventions, Crawford's life behind the scenes was much more complicated, especially regarding her romantic life. Born Lucille Fay LeSueur in 1904, Crawford rose from poverty to Hollywood stardom in the 1920s. By doing so, she became one of the brightest stars of the Golden Age. She joined MGM in 1925 and quickly gained fame for her roles portraying working-class women who, much like herself, fought for a better life. Known for her work ethic and ambition, Crawford carefully crafted her public image, portraying a glamorous, resilient woman who was simultaneously approachable and distant. Crawford's career was built on an image of heterosexual allure and Hollywood glamour. This public persona was meticulously managed by the studios, particularly in the early years when stars were contractually obligated to maintain certain lifestyles. The public image of Crawford was that of a woman interested in men, with multiple high-profile marriages and affairs with male co-stars. She was married 4 times to high-profile figures, including actors Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and Franchot Tone. But of course, most of these marriages were short-lived and, according to some, strategically motivated. Behind this carefully constructed image, Crawford was rumored to have had relationships with several women in the industry. She was linked to high-profile women, such as actresses Barbara Stanwyck, Marlene Dietrich, Marilyn Monroe, and Tallulah Bankhead. While some accounts suggest that these were close friendships, others claim that they were romantic relationships. Considering this was something Crawford and these other women would have had to hide at all costs, none of this can actually be proven. Crawford's rumored relationships with women came to light more prominently in the years after her death, as biographers and insiders revealed stories about her private life. Biographers have debated the extent of her relationships with women, with some casting doubt and others asserting that her relationships with women were a key part of her life. The truth is, she never openly acknowledged these relationships. Despite the challenges that came with living a closeted life, Crawford's career was marked by resilience. While she experienced periods of decline, she always returned to the spotlight, reinventing herself with each new decade. Today, Crawford's legacy is nothing short of multifaceted. She is remembered not just as an acting icon, but also a figure of glamour and ambition. So which of these names shocked you the most? Do share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. You also can't miss the next video on screen.